All right, we're here to talk about Companion. Actually, we're here to talk about Jack Quaid.
Yeah.
Who?
All right, hold on. Before we jump into the two titles, let's talk about Jack Quaid for a second.
Okay.
So I know everyone knows him from The Boys. I've not seen The Boys.
Yeah, I haven't either. It's on my list.
So I know him from Red Letter Media.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from his dad,
And
who his dad is.
And one Scream film.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know him as the voice of Superman in My Adventures with Superman.
But that's like 1 2-hour film. Most of my exposure, Jack Quaid to me isn't an actor. He's an online personality. You know?
he's a pal with Rich Evans.
Right. Friends of Rich Evans.
Correct. Here's my opinion on Jack Quaid. I like him. I think he seems like a cool dude.
Seems like a cool guy.
Seems like a cool dude. So when I saw these movies that are easily accessible and available to me, I was like, hey, let me see what this guy's about.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I'm cool with him. That's my review of Jack Quaid as a human being.
Jack Quaid gets 4 stars.
4 stars. Rich Evans is 5 stars, but that's...
Yeah. We reserve 5 stars for Rich Evans.
That's
Nobody
right.
knows or cares what we're talking about.
Right, yeah. That's
all
fine.
right, let's talk about Companion.
Yeah. So Companion is written and directed by Drew Hancock. Now, Drew Hancock, as far as I know, hasn't done anything that I've seen, but he's been a writer on some TV series, and I think this is his first feature. So good for him. It stars Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid and a whole host of others.
Sophie Thatcher from Heretic.
Recognize. Yes, from
Right,
Heretic.
okay.
So she's quickly becoming like, I hate the term like Scream Queen, but, she's been in some cool stuff lately.
I'm seeing Harvey Guillen. Harvey,
Yes.
the guy from What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes, that's
Guillermo.
correct. Yep. Yes, Guillermo.
All right.
So he's the what do you call it? Not Companion. That's the name of this film. He's the regular.
Oh, the Familiar?
Familiar. There
I didn't
you
know
go.
if you're talking about this. Like he's the.
No,
I'm like,
no.
I haven't seen this, Dustin.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, he's the Familiar, which is kind
Familiar.
of like the Companion.
Companion. So Companion is an interesting movie. It is a movie that is best seen if you know nothing about it.
Okay.
So after the film was over, I watched the trailer, and the trailer gives away everything.
Oh,
so
boy.
do not watch the trailer. Now,
Okay.
there's part of this where you'd be like, oh, but this is the premise of the movie. And I would argue that the premise of the movie hinges on a twist that happens in the first act.
Okay.
And if you know what that is, I think it's less effective.
I'm not going to pull the trailer for this one. I'm just deciding now, like that.
Yep.
Just for I don't care about the listener. Just for me, I don't want
Just for you. So I watched it without seeing it, and that's totally the way to go, because I was surprised at what this movie was. And I think the trailer, by telling you what it is, ruins a very essential piece of the film.
Interesting.
And I guess they assume like, well, it's, early in the movie, so
No one
it's
cares.
fair game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I think it's better seen not knowing.
Yeah.
So all that to say, here's what I'll tell you Companion is actually about. So it is there's a couple. It's Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid. They are in a relationship, and they go to a cabin in the woods, a getaway Airbnb with some friends to party and hang out and have a good time for a weekend.
Nice.
And things go awry. And that's as specific as I'm going to be. Companion is, to me, a really interesting movie to rewatch, and I think I would be interested in a rewatch of it. But all that said, it's not a great film, though I think it very easily could have been a great film. I think it's solid. I think that it loses a lot of steam in the middle of the movie. And I don't know if it's a product of, just like being strategic with your budget, and the middle of your movie feels a little low budget to me. There's like this thing on again on Red Letter Media, where they talk about like bad B movies and how many of them take place like in the woods, right? Because you can film in the woods very easily.
Yeah, for free.
Yeah. And so that happens a lot in this film, and it has that same sort of vibe where it's like, were you trying to save money on these parts? and to me, it kind of dragged.
Hurry up, because
middle.
all those national parks and stuff are about to be for profit.
Yeah.
Bye woods.
That's right. But all that to say, apart from like a dragging kind of middle section of the film, I think the beginning and the end of the film is actually pretty strong. And I enjoyed a lot about it. Again, I want to keep it spoiler free and I want to keep it vague. But what I will say is Sophie Thatcher is fantastic and Jack Quaid is fantastic. The filmmaking, the actual direction of it is also very well done, and the writing is smart, save for that middle section, which feels a little underwhelming compared to what came before and what will come later. And you know, partially as I'm talking about it now, that could also be because there is a twist at the beginning. It kind of sets you up for like, ooh, like it makes that first act really exciting. And the second act or the third act is exciting because of the nature of the act structure and that it's a climax. So that middle section just feels a little plotting. And so for me, that was sort of the big turn off of the film. But the other actors also do a really great job here. The film is better when it's not explaining things than when it does explain. And it's not that the explanations are bad. It's just that they, I think, gum up the works. They're not needed. And so I think there's a little bit of like over explanation here. But I really think it's a smart movie. It utilizes its concept really well, but it needs a better second act. So that's where I'm at with Companion. Again, keeping it vague. That's all I really want to say about it. If you are curious whether or not you should watch it, it is available on Max. And so if you have Max, then you've already paid for it. So check it out.
HBO Max now, Dustin.
HBO Max. Yes, HBO Max. We are filming this after that announcement.
It might be changed again by the time.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, by the time this is released, they're going to change different.
It to Zam.
Garflufin Plus.
We were good with Max. We just got to do it backwards.
Yeah, there you go.
Zam.
Zam. So should you watch it? Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth your time. I do think that it's not going to break new ground or make you question everything or super duper inspire you, but it's a good way to spend a little bit of time. And really, this isn't a long movie. This is what
about 100 minutes, I think, 97.
Yeah, so it's fairly short. Yeah, an hour and 37 minutes. It's so it kind of flies by. And if nothing else, watch it for Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid because they're great together. They have great chemistry, and she's quickly becoming one of my favorites. And I enjoyed him in this as well. So that's where I'm at with this. If you want to check it out, check it out.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. This other one is Novocaine.
So both of these were released this year in 2025. Yeah. So
busy boy.
Busy boy, that Jack Quaid.
There's also a pun, apparently. Yes.
Sure.
Busy boy. Capital B. Had to explain the joke.
There you go. It's fine. I still don't get it. It's cool.
The boys.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Now I get it. Okay. Well. Haha.
Fuck me.
Great. So that totally derailed me. Novocaine. Yeah, it released this year. I don't know how well it did in the box office. I didn't pull those numbers, but it stars, again, Jack Quaid, Amber Midthunder, another person that we've talked about before and have enjoyed her work.
Yeah,
Ray Nicholson, the son of Jack Nicholson.
Yes.
And Jacob Batalon, Matt Walsh.
The good Matt Walsh.
The good Matt Walsh.
I'm surprised to see middle budget films.
Yeah, it's a middle budget movie. It's like a high concept, little weird action movie. It does feel very reminiscent of Die Hard and like 80s, 90s action movies.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that about it.
The first thing I thought of, they're not really remotely the same movie probably, but I checked for the directors just to see they're not the same directors. But I keep thinking of Hardcore Henry.
Oh, sure.
Do you remember that? The whole, it was just like,
that.
we're going to do an action movie and the gimmick is this. It's first person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
it has a gimmick.
Yeah. But that's cool. Like it sounds like something I would hate, but I like that. It's like, that's all an action movie really needs. You know?
It needs to have something that sets it apart from the rest. Yeah. And so to that end, Lars Jacobson wrote the film. The premise is Jack Quaid plays a man who works at a bank, and he kind of lives a boring life, but it's boring kind of by design. He has a genetic condition that he's not able to feel pain. And so his house is very well protected, right? So, he could potentially walk through the house and impale himself on something and never know it. And so he has to protect himself. So like all the corners of like tables and countertops have like tennis balls for protection. And so very quickly, this first act sets up the life of this man. And then he's reclusive, like he's afraid to go and do anything and be a part of anything. Yeah. Part of that is because he's on a liquid diet. As he puts it, if he chews, he could bite his tongue off and never know it.
God.
And so
I thought this would be awesome, but this sounds terrible.
So he's on a liquid diet. So he feels like he's an other. He can't go to dinner with friends. He can't do that kind of thing. And he meets Sherry, played by Amber Midthunder, and the two have a nice little meet cute, and they hit it off. And she kind of draws him out of his shell and allows him to the safe place and the freedom to like explore things like eating a good slice of cherry pie. And so it's cute, it's romantic-y, it's funny, and it's a really great first act because I think the film does a lot of really heavy lifting really quickly to establish who this character is and what his life is like. And sometimes that's really hard to do. Like you feel like as a writer, you have to spell everything out, or you have to like show several scenes of like, what is this person in order for the audience to really grasp it. And I feel like in this movie, within a singular opening scene, you know everything you need to know. It's really well written and well crafted. This first act, I think, is actually pretty brilliant. It makes you really care for both of these characters, for Nate and for Sherry, and feel for them, right? Like Nate's character, I think by design is designed to make you latch on to him quickly. And part of that is by being both withholding at first and then up front when he opens up to Sherry about his condition. That's when we figure out about it too. And like we're clued in on, what all the tennis balls are and what's the point of all this. And so the idea of somebody who's super careful all the time now suddenly being thrust into something that's romantic and scary and, that kind of thing is a good premise. And I'd have watched a romantic comedy about that. And then what happens next is out of left field. I guess not if you've seen the trailer or know what the movie is, but thus it turns into an action film. The bank where Nate works is hijacked, and they attempt to rob the bank of a ton of money and get away, and they take Sherry hostage.
Man.
And so Nate, who now has this newfound love for Sherry because she's opened him up in new ways to new things, she's changed his life in a very short amount of time. He now decides to go after the criminals and do it himself. And so to that end, it becomes this comedy action about Nate, who takes on these bad dudes, but does so in funny interesting, clever ways. And I'll give you one of them, but the film's chock full of them. There's a moment where Jack Quaid is having a fight against one of the assailants in a kitchen, in like a restaurant kitchen. And there's a gun, and the gun falls into the deep fryer, and Jack Quaid reaches in to get it so he can use it. And he does this because he can't feel the pain that would be. Now, obviously, he's not superhuman, right? His skin boils and blisters. Yeah. And what I love about the film is it does not shy away from the damage his body takes. Yeah. It's just that he doesn't feel that pain. And so it's a clever way to allow him to do things that are slightly superhuman. Yeah. But still he's going to pay some consequences for those things, physically. Yeah, I think what impressed me most about this film is first, its first act, and secondly, how it utilizes its premise. The premise of an action guy who can't feel pain feels like that's obvious, and why hasn't that been done before? Mm-hmm. Because you watch John Wick, or you watch, The Raid, or you watch any of these movies that have come out recently that, are changing the game. One of the first questions is like, oh, come on. John Wick falls down all those stairs and then gets right back up. Come on. Yeah. Like, what? Can he not feel pain? Right. And like, that's the obvious thing. And then a writer just goes, oh, wait, what if he couldn't? Right. Not that his body wouldn't get hurt, but what if he couldn't feel pain? Yeah. And he would get right back up because there's none of that, like, sure, like your body would get tired. But if you think about the process, like let's say you fell down a flight of stairs and like nothing's broken, you just fell down a flight of stairs. The normal person is going to feel all the pain from that. And that's primarily what's keeping you on the floor. Yeah. When you hit the bottom. There is no like pain threshold to push through. Correct. And keep your body working. Because so you just get back up. Yeah. And if nothing's actually wrong, you just keep going. Anyone could do it. Yeah. But most people wouldn't do it. Right. Yeah. Exactly. So it's interesting in that way. And there's a lot of really cool and fun ways that Nate takes out these criminals and the way he fights back against them. And there's some twists and turns. Some of them work really well and some of them don't. Mm-hmm. And to a point, the film starts to overstay its welcome, where you feel like, okay, I thought we were at an ending and now we're ramping up again. Mm-hmm. I think it would fare better on a second viewing where like, I know that that's the case, but there was a little bit of like, okay, we're going again. Another round. Got it. But that's also maybe part of the premise is like, this guy's going to go more rounds than most people. Yeah. And so, I think that's I'm just impressed. I'm impressed at the performances. I'm impressed at the writing. I'm impressed at how it utilizes its concept. Because you think about, like, as a writer, the challenge of like, okay, now write an action movie, but do it where every action beat is built around the fact that he can't feel pain. Yeah. How do you do that? So of course there's some things that immediately pop into your mind. Like, well, what if he, again, I don't want to spoil anything here either, but like, what if he was forced to feel pain? Right? Okay. Well, he can't. So you see where I'm going with this? Like, if a criminal decided like, I'm going to torture you. Yeah. The torture is not going to work. Right. So that's a thing. Now, obviously like your mind goes there first, but every single action beat is built around that premise. Yeah. And so it doesn't waste any of it. Yeah. And it's really well done in that way. So, I really enjoyed Novocaine. I gave it 4 stars. I think it could be better. Mm-hmm. I think, again, tightening it up a little bit toward the end, that third act, just tightening that, I think would have done wonders. And I think maybe the primary villain here is Ray Nicholson's character, Simon. And I think giving him some different more layers would have been helpful. He's just kind of like a psychopath for a psychopath's sake. And I think having him be something a little more nuanced would have gone a long way. But again, like if you're looking at 80s, 90s movies as a blueprint for this, like the idea of like there just being I'm just bad to be bad, that feels 80s and 90s to me. So that makes sense. I don't know that that's what they were going for, but that is the vibe the film gave off. But at least in 2025, I would expect a villain that's a little more rounded, a little more specific, and maybe, a little more realistic. And so, that, those are just some of the small gripes that I have with the film, but by and large, I would absolutely watch this film again. And, it's not really in the league of like a John Wick in terms of its choreography or brutality. Well, maybe, but, it's not really in that league, right? Because we're not following a dude who's like a highly trained ex-op. This dude is just a bank manager. Right. So you're limited by your character's, his logistical abilities in that way. Yeah. Something like all these movies that have popped up post Wick, like Nobody, right? It's all like highly trained people that are now forced back into something. Mm-hmm. This is not that, so it feels weird to compare it to it. But I guess in terms of like, I think this probably has a John Wick inspiration somewhere down the line.
Sure.
And so in that way, I would say in terms of like the best post-Wick inspired movies, this is the best of them. And it's the best of them because it gives you actual characters. Nate and Sherry, I really love, and I would watch another Novocaine movie for sure. I don't know that they would do one, but I would watch it. And the other thing that I want to give the film credit for beyond performances, direction, writing, utilization of its concept, all of these things that I've already talked about, I want to talk about that consequences, right? I even alluded to it a minute ago. Yes, he can't feel pain, but there are consequences to reaching your hand into that boiling oil. There are real consequences in this film, and I enjoyed that because it would have been really easy to shrug off all consequences when the film is ready to wrap and reset everything back to a normal or what have you. And the film doesn't. The film absolutely has consequences. And I don't know why I wasn't expecting that, unless modern cinema has taught me that everything can be solved and there is no lasting effects of it. Right. Which is partially why, like, again, like saying this now, it's partially why like the later Marvel movies, like the phase 4 MCU really worked for me, is because there started to feel like there were consequences. And, post Civil War, there absolutely were consequences. A character does a thing that's going to inform the next bit of the MCU. Yeah. And I think that maybe for a while there, consequences didn't feel like a thing in movies. And then the reason that the MCU started to work was when it felt like there were consequences. So I think I figured out within my own self, consequences are a big part of what I relate to. And maybe that's why I like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul as much as I do, is because there are real consequences to what Walt and Jimmy do in those shows. And
truths.
And right.
So New Mexico pun for everybody.
New Mexico, brought to you by New Mexico Hoopercast. I feel like that's
a thing for you. Yeah, the consequences narratively, like that's utilization of concept and actual consequences matters. Like that's satisfying as people who write, for another writer to take those sorts of things seriously and to maintain their stakes.
Here's an example. This doesn't spoil anything. Like early in the film, Nate, when Sherry's taken as a hostage, he runs outside, finds a cop car, and takes the cop car to go after them. Well, so immediately my brain goes, okay, he just stole a cop car.
Yeah.
There's going to be consequences for this.
Yes.
And so then like 2 scenes later, they're like, you stole a cop car. And I'm like, oh, great. They didn't forget about that.
Right.
That wasn't just a writer going, I got to get him to point B. I don't know. He takes a cop car. Yeah. It was a purposeful choice. Yeah. And then there are consequences now to pay for that, where the police are now going, this guy may also be a suspect in this. And it's like, oh, okay, great. We need to, it was a clue for me that I need to pay attention because the writer was too. Yeah. And I think that's an important thing. Yeah. Again, you got to have consequences. It shows me that as a writer, you're understanding what choices your characters are making and what ramifications those choices will have in their life. And if there are no lasting consequences, then what's the point of the story? The whole point of any story, at least as far as I'm concerned, is character change. And so you can change a character internally, and you can also change the external environment and conditions of that character. And that can be done through moral and ethical things that happen to the character throughout. Or it can literally be the consequences of stealing a cop car, or the consequences of sticking my hand into boiling oil is I'm going to have a skin graft, right? These are the consequences of your actions. And so I enjoyed that. I really wanted to make sure I pointed out that the writer here, again, I'm going to say his name. His name is Lars Jacobson, was paying attention when he wrote the film. Yeah. Again, not to undermine the fact that I did just say it probably needed a second pass on that antagonist. It does. But in terms of the logic of the story, it's totally solid. And it utilizes his concept really well. So I give this high marks. I mean, it's a 4-star film. It's totally solid. Yeah. Those of you that know me know 4 stars is good. It's pretty like good, great. Yeah. Like that I would watch that again. So I enjoyed it, and I think you will too. If you have Paramount Plus, I think this is worth your time. And so yeah, go watch Dennis Quaid and Jack Nicholson's sons go at it.
Yeah. Couple Nepo babies.
I think I saw a quote from Jack Quaid recently where he was like, yeah, I don't mind that title. It's fine.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I mean.
There's a lot of Nepo babies who say that too. They're like, okay.
Cool.
Whatever.
Yep. Sure. Fine. So yeah, man, I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Man, now I want to see these.
Yeah. I think you should. Again, Paramount Plus, go check it out. It is worth a watch. Oh, I didn't even really talk about Jacob Batalon in this.
Oh yeah.
This is the first thing that I've seen him in other than Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's kind of just playing Ned Leeds again, but it's fine. It's cool. Well, that's all I got on that.
Okay. Well, that's Jack Quaid, everybody.
Yay.